Hello, this is Brian Whitten and ET Art. How are you? Welcome back to the channel. So if you are 12 or younger, if you would go and get your parents and or guardian and have them watch this video first, please. I did want to start with this image today. It's the head of the Sphinx prior to the modifications that were made to it, that you can see the outline of a head on this side, or profile, and the profile of another head there. And as I suggested, stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3 of humans development, not necessarily on Earth either. We would appear to have come from multiple planets, and we're learning very quickly that if you hadn't watched the other video, like I said, Jupiter's departure, I will call this Jupiter's departure part 2, and it will be just an on-flow from my last video. So I will not hash, or rehash I should say, a lot of what I've already told you. I will, however, go over one or two things that I think are of consequence that we need to discuss. But that is what we're actually seeing there. I thought I'd show you that, and we will then discuss the following movements of Jupiter. Jupiter is dragged away by Nibiru. Now I did want to show you this crop circle. I believe what we're seeing in this crop circle is the path of Nibiru. In other words, what Nibiru does when it comes into our solar system, it moves extremely quickly. I will show you something else that I also believe reflects that. I wanted to come here because I would see that we are the centre star, and these three other stars that I have mentioned, I'll insert the name of them here rather than go through it for you. But I'm seeing that possibly we're seeing the motion out to one star and back out to the star again and back, and then possibly the same to each one, so we're going twice to each one, which is why we're seeing this happen. In our instance, we are getting planets taken away. I will show you where. We'll see that in another crop circle, but that is what I think we are seeing here, that the reflection of two is not sequential in that it goes 1, 2, 3 and around like that, but more twice to this one, twice to that one, and twice to that star. And in the instance that it doesn't take planets away, it brings them back. I wanted to put that to you just to let you know that that is what my trend of thought would be, and I will show you why that's the case very shortly. I'll show you the next crop circle. Now what I'll do is zoom in a little closer here to the very top here, where we see, in my opinion, what we're seeing here is the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and you'll notice Earth's moon, and then Earth, and then Mars, and then beyond there, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. It's got the right amount of planets for our solar system, with, of course, Earth's moon put into a sequence at that point that goes between Venus and Mercury, further in and further. It has 2 points further in. I did discuss that in the last video. Like I said, I don't want to rehash. I'm going to bring us up to the top of this and see what we're actually seeing here. We're talking about Jupiter here being pulled away with Nibiru's pass in this next instance, which I believe will be, as I've said already, the very middle of November. The 16th and 17th is when Nibiru will come flying through the system that quickly. It will take Jupiter with it. I also said to you I wasn't sure how quickly these are going to fall into the other locations of the other planet. I actually would also show you something that I believe is telling us that the placement of these back into the inner ring, or to the next ring or next ring available, is almost instantaneous as well. Like, it's very, very quick action to get Saturn to jump to the ring of Jupiter, mostly because it's in electromagnetic fields beyond the narrow portions of the Sun, because there is a cycle where the Earth is pushed out here. It gets about 40 million miles beyond Mars and just stops. That transition of movement, I will go and show you a plate very shortly, that transition of movement to the outer ring is with the Earth laid flat like this on its axis and spinning quite quickly to, the 7, 8, 10 hours a day. In other words, it's spinning very quickly. It still cycles the Sun. One pole always points towards the Sun, but as it moves out over the 6,000 years, it does get to a point out here where it just stops its motion outwards. That's one thing I needed to have you know, that that's exactly what they tell us happens. It stops. It doesn't actually keep going forever. It gets to about 40 million miles beyond Mars' ring of rotation and then stops. When I've shown you this plate before. These plates, I got images of this off Mystery History 2 channel, which is a very, very good video. You guys have been really helpful in that I actually do communicate back with them that I've used some of their images. I certainly have a non-profit channel here. It's just really got to get this out to let people know what's happening. This is the inner ring of rotation, which is 93 million miles from the Sun. This is the outer ring of rotation. These little swirls like this that look like 6s and 9s are in actual fact the Earth being changed on its axis. In other words, whether it twists clockwise or anti-clockwise, it doesn't actually stop the globe, it just turns it over, lays it flat and spins it and then stands it up the opposite way. I won't go through that again either, but it happens on the way of that transition back in here in the first 2,000 years, and then the 4,000 years it moves off this plane of the Sun. This is reflective of the horizontal plane. The plate itself is reflective of the horizontal plane of the Sun. This is how you know that the planets, the Moon gets locked into this horizontal plane here and moves cycles between these here, and that's how it protects the Earth's equatorial regions from this extremely strong horizontal plane of the Sun, which doesn't affect us at the moment. We have our magnetic plane skewed to it. The day the skew angle is gone, our Earth moves extremely quickly. We would all be killed, which is why they come back and manage this process. I wanted to come back here just to remind you that that's the case. There is 2 rings of rotation of Earth. One is a lot further out than Mars, and at that point in time when it's out here, there's no humans living on the planet out here. It's just not, there's void of human life. It's frozen cold and nobody's here. There may be people underground, but I would imagine they would have an ability to leave the planet and go visit Mars or do whatever if in actual fact there's anybody here, because it's going to be extremely cold, freezing, and spending about the hours a day are 7, 8 and 10 hours a day that they tell you that it spends out there in the temple or the Tirumala complex, amongst other things that tell you how fast it spins. There's temples all over the world tell us exactly what goes down here. I wanted to come back to that point because I said to you I wanted to show you when Nibiru comes through the system, it grabs the first planet beyond this boundary, and that boundary is here where Earth stops. It doesn't keep going here. It gets to a point here and its motion outward just stops, and that's exactly what happens. It does not get thrust from the Sun anymore, and it sits at this point here. The next point from that is in actual fact Jupiter, and I said to you there was a couple of things I'd seen and I wanted to show you that they in fact I believe tell us exactly what happens. This would be the first one. I had a friend of mine who is in Lithuania. I won't say her name at this point, but I'm not saying she believes everything I'm putting here either. I'm merely telling her what I believe the case is. This one here, I want you to be aware of what you're seeing there. We're talking about extremely quick. I also want you to note that he's got a ring on this ear, but none on this ear. So in other words, I'm saying that when Nibiru comes up and takes Jupiter away, that Saturn moves that quickly into the ring of rotation of Jupiter that it leaves the rings behind. That's what's happening there. It's not the only one that's showing us that. And then each planet beyond that would jump to the next ring. Just like an electromagnetic field. A void becomes available, it just snaps back in and will go directly there. That is what I believe we're seeing in this message here. This is what the message is telling us. It's going to go that quick. You won't see it happen, which is why his face looks like this. And this one. The reason why I wanted to show you that plate that I just showed you with the dual rings of rotation, there are 2 of those. There's one that has a moon cycle in the middle and one that doesn't. I believe we're seeing a reflection of the 2 plates here and here. But what we're seeing beyond the outer limit of these plates is this. and he's laying down getting a ride out of the place. This guy's leaning backwards. He's going flat out, and which would leave us with 4 outer planets, and there's 4 holes left there that will be filled. And this is what I'm saying. The Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto will jump back in one by one into the rings left void by each and every movement of the inner planet, or the one further in than it, and that'll happen, all of them, extremely quickly, and I would expect within the 2 days, this 16th and 17th will be the day Jupiter is taken away, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus and Pluto will go pop, 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 all back into the rings of rotation of those receding planets, or the one that left. I wanted to show you that as well because I believe that is also reflective of the same thing. This was once again shown to me by, I think it was just one of my group members in a group I'm a member of. This is the other one. I know this was once again my friend from Lithuania. And I thought this was very, very pertinent, not just to that, but to the very date itself. I wanted to bring you your attention initially, firstly to the balls that go around here from this staff to 2 points here, this one here and this one here. So we're pointing, if we count round here, all the way around there, we get to the 16th and 17th on these 2 balls. First one above it, all the way around there, we get to this one and it stops at 21 balls. So we've got 16 to 17 balls there, 21 balls over the top, which add to 38. And if we take 38 days away from the day they say the Earth was going to cross the plane of the Sun, which is written on this parchment, I'll show you again where the parchment is written. I have covered this parchment extensively. This is a full view of the parchment, but I wanted to bring your attention just to this top portion here, and I'll zoom in a bit here so you can see that this is where we're actually getting the date set for us, the 24th of the 12th at 3 AM. But in actual fact what we're talking about then is the 24th of the 12th. We know it's 2020 because below this portion there are 20 men looking that way and 20 men looking that way, so it wasn't a silly assessment. So especially when you see the things that we're seeing point back to the middle of November, which was ironically is the very same day I put my external light on my microscope and saw the image you see now inserted. I didn't plan to go away on a holiday. I did take my rocks with me on a microscope because I'd seen this image, if you see, and look at this, it's got a 4 in Roman numerals. I was only just becoming aware of these microscopic images on the rocks and things that were written on them when I went away. So I took them with me on my birthday, and we had a rainy night and I put the microscope on and got my computer there because water had leaked all over my side of the tent, so I just got up and made sure my laptop was going to survive. Used the side light because my microscope light for some reason wasn't working, and that's what came about. So ever since that day I've been on this lesson or lesson of discovery, a path of discovery. I'll go and like I said, I'll show you that, and if we look at also the date 24th of the 12th and then do some calculations then from that date. If we go from the 24th of the 12th and I put my 38 days in and subtract it, I get back to the 16th of the 11th. If I go back to the icon here now and come around here, I've got 1 written on that ball and 1 written on that ball and it's 11th. So it's saying the 16th and 17th of the 11th. The very same thing as if I subtract the total number of balls, I get the same thing. If I also go over here, I've got 21 balls, which is how many hours in a day we have when the moon is moved away. They're telling us that is actually the case. I want to bring your attention here now to the, just as I did on the last figure, show you the rings around his ears. Which planets have the rings? Once this planet here being the one that's furthest out, the next one available from the outer ring of rotation is Jupiter. He's pointing that is going to his shoulder and saying, I'm going. This one's leaving. This is one that's getting taken away. We see A is going to move back into here, which is then Saturn, but the rings are going to be left here and join there. That's why we've got this join here through to this planet. So we're saying that the rings of Saturn will become the rings of Uranus, and the rings of Neptune become the rings will be, left behind when Neptune jumps in. It too leaves the rings behind, and that will become the rings of Pluto, because that's what that seems to me to be. It seems to be exactly what's going to happen. That the whole lot of it happens extremely quickly, and that reflects exactly the same thing. This inserted image that you see now, like I said, has happened over my house some weeks back now, but it really got me to thinking that there was something going to happen that was extremely quickly, because as far as I could see, and I can see a long way from my place in either direction, north or south, the sky or the clouds were all the way to the horizon, and the marks in the clouds had come all the way from wherever they'd come, done this loop above the house as you can see, and then gone back in the opposite direction. There was nothing visible to see. It had come and gone in that time, and that is what made me start looking at what we were seeing with speed. So, like I said, I've had friends send me these things. I'm absolutely certain that's what we're going to see. Jupiter will be gone on the 16th, and these will be like clockwork. They'll just go click, 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 and fill the void left by the other. The only other thing I wanted to talk of from the planetary motion perspective is that in the first instance, when I showed you this crop circle here, I think what we're seeing here, I will show you one other instance here, or one other parchment, which tells us a length of time. It's 65,000 years. And I've wondered as to why I get that, why I'm getting that. This is why I wanted to show you this, and I think we're getting told we go 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. There's an issue going on with here. We see on this crop circle that we're getting 4 planets removed on this. This crop circle here says that each part of Nibiru comes and gets the next planet. But once that point's gone to a given point, it changes the polarity of the system, and Nibiru doesn't take planets anymore, it delivers them. Well, one thing I did want to show you is if we go back onto the other side of here, we know Earth gets pushed out to the outer ring of rotation. And I think we're seeing this here. I think that's what we're seeing reflected here. That in this bottom portion of this crop circle. We're saying, okay, well what happens here is that Earth gets pushed out here and it does 16,000 years going clockwise, then does the 6,000 year off-plane cycle, and then 6,000 years going anti-clockwise around the Sun. That's what does the same thing out there as it does in here. But why? Why does it do that? And I often wonder as to whether we're getting told here that variations in mass between the planets of beyond the inner ring planets, so in other words beyond where Earth stops. So we'll say this point here. So from beyond this point here, if in actual fact the planets that come back are not as big and massive as Jupiter or Saturn, well then maybe the whole sequence there takes a fair bit longer to achieve. And the reason I say that is the following. This parchment here, arms are down, we've got 5.5 arms here, 5.5 arms here, 5.5 and 5.5 or 11. Down here we've got a full arm and a 1.5 arm here. That's 11.5. So it's telling us months. This is 11 month year, this is 11.5 month year. This happens because the Earth's speed increases. So in other words, its motions through space is faster. So that's what judging a year. That's not how many days are in a year, that's judged by how many revolutions the Earth makes within a given period. And this is what we're seeing here. We've got 22 men in each of these, telling us that a 44,000 year cycle. 44,000 years, there's 22 fellows on both sides here. The other thing I've said to you is we're seeing here that predominantly everybody here is mostly of dark colour, except for this man sitting here. That's what I've said to you. I'll go show you something else later. The reason I wanted to talk to you about that is these cycles up here. If we look at that as being reflective of a sequence, so there's 5 by 13 here, 4 by 12, 4 by 12, and 4 by 11 on the last 4. But maybe that's the whole sequence that needs to happen for Earth to be back, the Sun to be back, not necessarily the Earth, but the Sun cycle itself. So in other words, when the Sun is back to the very point that it is about to be, where it leaves the plane, or where the plane starts to drift, when Jupiter gets taken away, that whole cycle, which is equal to 337,000 years if you add them all up here, that in actual fact is the cycle of the Sun there being displayed, the whole length of time. It is based on how much mass is brought back by the sequence of Nibiru visiting those other star systems. Which planet is it going to bring back? Which one does it leave? And this is what I'm not 100% sure of. I'm not a physicist, but I certainly would see that be reflective of the Sun cycle itself, and how long it takes for this Sun's plane to drift all the way around to where it comes back, where we are, or where we will be when Jupiter is removed. And maybe they're saying that's how long it comes back before Jupiter is once again the planet just beyond, just beyond the ring of rotation, when Jupiter is there again to be taken. It could be 337,000 years from this Christmas, because we're definitely seeing the sequence there. And I just wanted to put that in for you physicists that may be looking at this, because I'm not a physicist. I'm just merely indicating what I believe we are seeing in the way these parchments, the way the artifacts are left us, as to what I believe we're seeing. I want to touch on one other subject now, before I move on with the issues in respect to human reproduction on the planet. I did want to cover, and have put in a video once on my ET Art YouTube channel. You will find a video there called the Masonic Trials. You can COVID clean anything you want. You can blow up whatever you want and destroy evidence. The evidence they get when they get here is obtained like that. And I've said that in that video, that you walk in, kneel down, they point a thing at your head and recover your memories. And I'll tell our Prime Minister that, would be almost 18 months ago, that is what in actual fact happens. It's called the Masonic Trials, and it is also a video on my channel. And like I said, you'll see the upload date. That is how they obtain evidence. It is clear as a bell. How do I know that? Because they gave me the vision of my mother's last 4 or 5 seconds of her murder the day before my self-represented hearing in the Newcastle court in 2006. So I have had except the way I saw it was vice versa. They took out my mum's memory and gave them to me. It was only about 4 or 5 seconds. I was absolutely straight as a die. And while I am straight as a die, there may be some of my videos you may think, this man sounds like he's smoking or under the influence. I'll be honest with you, I probably was. There are times that I would have packed this up long ago. I'm not at the moment, haven't been for quite a few months. But I would have packed up long ago, because I was finding things out that I thought would be of great interest to a lot of people in the hot positions of power. The longer I went doing it, I realised they knew, they're just hidden it, and which is why I started the video the way I did. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not encouraging anybody out there to go down and start smoking dope all the time or whatever. I'm just telling you that times in my life, had I not been, I would have packed up and left this. I probably would have, and gone and sought a job and an income. I have quit a very well paid job to continue, or at least start this journey, and to be quite frank, I haven't made a cent since, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just really glad to have gotten to an understanding of where we are, because there is no money on earth that could pay for the knowledge that I've been able to obtain by understanding the messages left here from our ancestors. So I'm very pleased to have taken that option. Where I go now is the next one, and I did say that I wanted to discuss with you some matters in respect to human reproduction. I am a Christian. I was born, raised a Christian, and went to private school, so I did want to touch on this subject. So if you're a religious person, I certainly don't mean this in any disrespectful manner, but what we're being shown here, I have uploaded this video before. It's Mars the Moon Part 2, and I spoke of the requirement of the moon and the way it's going to be cycled with the Earth standing straight on its axis, like this, locked into the horizontal plane again, which is how it exists now with this cycle we're about to approach. So once Jupiter is taken away, the Earth will, well, I am under the opinion that it's going to be pulled up here because we are told of all these high-speed motions and movements. I also believe we're on the 44,000 year cycle because we've looked at parchments that tell us exactly that. We know that the moon is moving between Earth and the Sun in sync. It's driven in and out. How it does it, I'm not 100% certain. That's probably the safest thing to say. I'll keep my camera on longer. So I don't know exactly, I'm not a physicist, how that actual fact is achieved, but to stay in the same place, if it was standing straight, it would have to be of the same mass. So whether they vary the mass of the moon in cycles, it's possible they do. And it's spinning, one would expect, to create a magnetic field to protect Earth's equator, because we want to be protected from this very, very strong portion of the Sun. I've shown this balloon field here as a stop here, where in reality it's more like an orange peel field. It'll go over to the opposing ring on the other side of the Sun. All of these segments, they're like orange peels around the Sun. So we would see the moon pushed in and out of here, and where I've said that in a uploaded picture I'll show you shortly, there is, in the 16,000 years that we stand within here, we're not here for the whole 16,000 years. We get shifted at points between there and here, and then back again. I would expect when we're shifting in here, and the Earth is sitting into this portion, that it can move up and down slowly or whatever, but the moon is in a position where it's close enough. What I'm saying is there is times where Earth is within this field that it is close enough to the moon for white people to live on the planet. I wanted to let you know that that's the case because I did have an uploaded image that says the only time that white people can live on the planet is the 6,000 year cycle we've just had, where in reality that's probably not the case. And I wanted to make that clear before I go on to the next image, that there would be a period of time within the 16,000 years where this is shifted into there, and in doing so it is then close enough to the moon in given portions of the cycle for white people to exist. The reason I wanted to cover that is I wanted to show you this next image. And this image is the one I wanted to show you. I am a Christian by faith. I did not go to church, but I went to a private school. We used to have to go to church once with Mum and then once during the week with school. So, I get to a point of understanding this, and it really was quite, the whole lot has been really quite difficult at times. It's been really quite upsetting to some degrees. Other times it was, really quite astounding. But nonetheless, we've come back here, and I wanted to let you know that I've said in an uploaded image, this is the very image, that the only time white man was going to survive, and this cross with Jesus lying on the cross, because in our faith Jesus is a white man, that we are being told that the only time, or I have said the only time that white man can breed on the planet Earth is within this 6,000 year cycle here. So I would say that I'm probably incorrect there. If we looked at, said, okay, well if this is reflective of the 6,000 year cycle that I've already spoken to you, the movement in from the outer ring, that whether the 4,000 year cycle, which is only this portion here, is the portion that people can live on, and we are shown not to exist here. It's only the Asians and Middle Eastern people that have been put on the planet as it's moving in here. We've already gone through that from the cave picture showing us exactly when they put those people on. But he's got his arms stretched left and right, and I had said that it was the 16,000 years clockwise, 16,000 years anti-clockwise. Well, that's actually not what it's representing. It's actually representing that whilst the Earth is standing straight, like this, with the moon cycle, the way I've just spoken of, that is the portion that white man can't exist, because the moon is never close enough, and that's why. So when it goes into those balloon fields, which would appear to be every 3,500 years or thereabouts, when Nibiru is going to come back and take another planet, but once we're locked into the horizontal plane, the shift of Earth is into the balloon field. And in the balloon field, well, we're closer to the moon, and therefore we can exist. So that's what I'm saying here, is that we're actually seeing that indication. In this very instance, yes, we cannot breed any longer. Our women will not ovulate when the Earth stands straight as it is and as it's going to happen there. I just wanted to, straighten that up in that area there. So, like I said, they come back at this end of this period of time, and the period of time you see here is not a full 2,000 years, is it? That's what I mean. Everybody's getting put back on Earth here. It's not, you're not looking at a 6,000 year cycle, because that's 6,000 years. This is 4 from his shoulder down to his feet. This is then 3. We're not looking at a complete cycle here, is what I'm saying. I would expect we are seeing the white races only get put on the Earth here, or all of us, for this portion, for the last 2,000 years and a bit, really. Because you cannot live on Earth 2,400 years ago or 3,000 years ago. The Earth is going over the top of the sun, down below. You're getting 3 months of full winter, or 3 months where the sun doesn't disappear. So it's either totally dark for 3 months, or totally light for 3 months. Yeah, sure, you get 3 months either side of that look pretty normal. But I would swear that it's impossible. It's impossible for civilizations to live on Earth 3,000 years ago, which is why we're seeing this represented like that. It's 2,000 years, this is about 3, and then you've got your 4,000 of the 6,000 year cycle here. So that's what it is, and like I said, I would expect that, yeah, sure, we will not be able to exist in either going clockwise or anti-clockwise in that portion of the cycle, but when it's pushed back into the balloon field, well, then white people could then inhabit the planet again. It is a traumatic thing to find out, because in actual fact, as of the middle of November, it would also mean that everybody of my own species, or let's say species, we're all human, yes, but we didn't all evolve on the same planet, and this is going to be what we're going to all find out. I did want to cover that because I also wanted to cover some other aspects to do with some of the other races that do stay here. Right? Not that you're not going to have problems. We've already spoken of cycles of the moon and the changing cycles limiting your women's ability to ovulate. The moon's new cycle moves in and out close to the sun. If I then bring up this one here, this we've discussed before too, I won't get too far into this, but to say that this is, we have a white woman, yes, but she's not white, she's Asian. If you actually go into her eyes, that's why you see Asian looking eyes on some of the Egyptian reliefs, because they're talking about two races, not one. They're talking about the people where it's at, which is the Middle Eastern, and they're talking about the Asians as well, because they are still able to ovulate. The ninth hand here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, points at her pelvic region, because she's talking about that situation. In other words, how often she can ovulate. How often within these 9 months can she ovulate. Right, so if you look at this, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's only, those 2 months out of possible 9 where she can even ovulate, because it's the only time the moon is close enough. That's why we're having this issue here. So she cannot ovulate the rest of the time. So many times she's getting the chance as the moon is close enough. If I come out again, this is what I wanted to talk about now. So the Egyptians and the Asians seem to have that same problem. The story is here, there are 2 further in and only 1 outwards one. So I'd say it's every out, the one that the moon is closest to her, where she can ovulate, which is every 4th month. Same as and she is of that colour because it's covering both the Asian and the Middle Eastern races. I want you to note down here that you've got 3 flowers, lotus flowers if you wish to call them that. I want to note that hands are actually pointing to those pretty, bringing your attention to 3 or 6. And what I believe we're seeing here, and I have mentioned it before, that we look at a situation where ovulation takes place every 4th month, yes, but because of the opposing magnetic fields that the Earth stands straight in now, that the fetus of the woman is being affected to its growth and the gestation period being far longer. So instead of it being 9 months, there may be some of them have the effect of being 3 months longer, and in some instances 6 months longer, which means you're carrying a baby a lot longer for it to come to term. Same again if I look at, and with all due respect to the Indian people as well, from the subcontinent, and this is once again a Praveen Mohan picture he had, and I made comments to Praveen. I send stuff to Praveen as well. He doesn't get back to me a lot, but I do. Actually, he's never gotten back to me at all. But there is a lot of difference between doing something and making no money and making money, and so he would imagine he falls into that category. Once again, if we look up an elephant, this is a female elephant. Look at the eyes. It's got makeup on her eyes. I know this is a deity in Hindu religion. I don't mean to be disrespectful to you at all. I'm really quite keen on you guys. But what we're seeing here is exactly that. We are looking at a band around the legs, and the legs are not sitting in a yoga position. A band around her legs here, and I believe they're talking about ovulation here. So in other words, if you look at a female, a female has got a problem with ovulation. In other words, the length of time that the baby has carried could be as long as an Asian elephant, which is 20 months. So that's what I'm saying. There seems not just that, but there seems to be other things that reflect exactly the same thing, that the ovulation or the time to carry a baby or gestation period is the same as if we look at this inserted image now, or Sumerian relief. If we look at it, we look at a horse's body on a man's head. A horse's gestation period is 12 months. Once again, an increase of 3 months. And where are we? We're back in the Middle East again. So this is what I'm saying. There seems to be gestation periods greatly increased. I think the last thing I will show you now before I finish up, this was the 6,000 years, one for every one of these. So there's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. We are seeing the Asian people be put on here. This is the start of our 4,000 with human life on, moving in from the outer ring of rotation. The Egyptians get put on here. They are taken off again because you've got to stand the globe back up here. And that is what is said. And without doubt, if you go and have a look around, there's many references. I won't worry about covering it because I have already in other videos. One thing I wanted to show you is the llama that's standing here is going on when the planet is stood up on the inner ring of rotation with the Earth in this direction, is going clockwise around the Sun. I want to show you these 2 inserted images. One is it's a figurine of such, but if you see the way I've told you that you turn left and you go left anti-clockwise and right anti-clockwise, I want you to look at his hands. I want you to look at his chest. See to the left. On his right side, our left is a straight, and his thumbs are up on that side. On the other side, his hand is down. He's not saying that the women cannot ovulate there, but in my opinion, the South Americans that are here, that are getting told they can stand up, and the Earth going with a straight axis going around clockwise, they don't have a problem. They can live there. But I'm afraid the South Americans, in my opinion, you're in the same boat as us guys. I think you have to relocate because I've got that, and not only that, have a look at this image here. This is a wall relief. It's a Mayan wall relief. It shows without doubt that looking left and going left, which is clockwise around the sun, is fine, but look what happens going right. It's no go. And what do you get when you go even further to the right? There's a bunch of UFOs there. We know that UFOs are right through the Mayan, the Mayan artifacts. Right, there's hundreds of them. Listen, I'll be honest with you, from these two things I would look at them and say, I would be without doubt that the image that you're seeing there, the figure is giving birth to a baby going to the left side, and the baby is stillborn. So I'm not saying that you can't ovulate, but I would expect you're going to have very, very, very severe issues should you stay on the planet with actually having stillbirths and whatnot being a major issue, which is why they put you on here. I often wondered why I saw the llama here there, but only when it stood up straight going around the sun. Those other two artifacts that I just showed you, I don't mean to be upsetting, but I'm certainly saying we all have a lot to learn with what's ahead of us. And don't fear, because obviously none of this would be here if they were going to come here to harm us. It's not. It's a matter of understanding that just packing in a bag in a UFO and flying away from this planet is not quite as easy as we think. I would suspect that you could think, well, maybe the whole lot's left here because that is the only way it gets done. That is without doubt the only way it gets done, is with our ancestors say so, without their education and understanding, with all that we've got to learn. So that's without doubt, I would think that that's the case. If I've upset anybody by touching on religious aspects here, I didn't mean to, and I don't intend to. I'm just saying to you that there would appear to be many, many messages left here for all of us, in all different races. Even though we're all human, we didn't all evolve in this solar system on the same planet. And it is, I would say, like I said, I don't think this is a situation where we just went away and the problem happened. I think we went away, we populated other star systems, which is why we see Nibiru in this, in the crop circle here, going off to these other stars. It's possible that they could have said, oh no, you went off to these other stars, and then because you started to have children in those other electromagnetic fields. I don't think so, though. I actually think we probably didn't have a problem here, and that some galactic event caused that issue, and then it had to be dealt with, and it's dealt with by the management of the system the way it is now. I think we'll finish up there today, and I think, to be quite honest, I've done about as much as I can do. I can only tell you what I believe and perceive that we are seeing. Certainly I would expect this thing in November is going to be in November, the middle of November, 16th to 17th, Nibiru will come through that quickly. It will take Jupiter, the moon will be pulled into a new cycle, and I would hope that we've got them well and truly here by then. We're going to need lessons for somebody else other than me, and we need to get rid of these people destroying, or at least the appearance they're destroying evidence, when in reality the evidence that our ancestors need is only within the heads of those that have committed the most atrocious, absolutely putrid behaviour against the children of our world. No matter what colour, no matter what religion, it would appear to be that it is a worldwide situation, and I thank God that I at least got the opportunity to put this information forward to you guys and to find out myself, because to be honest with you, when I found out about all this sort of behaviour and humans could do this to children, I'll be honest with you, I found it hard to believe in the first instance. And that was some years back now, and then all this rolled through my front door. So anyway, I've done the best I can without the help of a physicist in respect to planetary motion, but certainly I would expect that we're all going to have issues here, and not just us. It would appear the animal kingdom as well. This is probably another reason why they never ever leave from the time they get back here this time. There is no cycle that I've seen on Earth where our ancestors aren't here, but the one we've just finished, it is the only one that I can see they are not here full time. Anyway, that's all from ET Art and Brian Whitten. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.